You are listening to the Bright Life Podcast, all about ways to stay inspired, chase your dreams, and find more gratitude in the highs and lows of the journey. I'm your host, Jessica Johnson. I'm a business owner, a part-time digital nomad, a self-growth junkie, a believer in other big-hearted women, and am all about sharing tips, tricks, lessons learned, and encouragement so we can all live our biggest, brightest lives. You ready? Let's do this. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's episode. I'm super thrilled because I have a good friend and someone in the health community with me today. Her name is Paige Yomogida, and she is an online fitness and nutrition coach certified through the National Academy of Sports Medicine and Precision Nutrition and has a BS in managerial economics. She has coached hundreds of clients to achieve their fitness goals over the past few years, and her ultimate goal is to impact as many women's lives as possible through her online coaching programs. I have even used Paige to do my fitness routines, and she has helped me so much when it comes to feeling confident in how to use weights, what to do with them, like how to enjoy fitness and creating something that really works for you and feels so fun and part of your routine. So I wanted to share her with all of you. So welcome, Paige.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here and chatting with you. I can't wait to see where the conversation goes today.
Yes, and the fun part about Paige too is she's in this online business world. She has an amazing journey from being in more of the finance world to building her own business and all that comes with that. So I thought it would be fun to not only have someone who's an expert in this health and wellness stuff that's so fun to dive into, but who really has built a business from the ground up, who's very much like in the middle of that growing and building an even bigger and bigger and bigger phase. And so anyway, it was so much for us to talk about. But maybe like in your own words, like I gave your bio, but maybe just start with telling us a little bit more of how you began in this world of fitness and entrepreneurship, and just tell us whatever kind of stands out there, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. There is so much that goes into it between like the fitness world and the entrepreneurship. And it's kind of interesting. Over my life, I've kind of seen aspects of my journey that have kind of created this puzzle piece that has landed me to where I am now, but it really wasn't straightforward. I've always been active from, the time I was born. I was playing soccer right away, all the way up until high school. I played golf competitively in high school, and I've always just had this thing for personal growth and personal development and striving for being the best version of myself. I ran my first half marathon when I was 17, and I went to the gym here and there, but it really wasn't until college when I discovered like my love for fitness and the gym specifically. Um, During that time too, like in high school, and I don't even know if I've mentioned this to you before, but like I'm also an artist. So in high school, so in high school, like this has always been something that I just loved, but I never even had like an actual like high school real job because I would make fine art and I would make digital prints and I would sell them.
Wow. That is so cool. That explains so much though, because you have the most amazing like marketing, but also just client materials that I feel like you have that design eye. So now this all makes sense to me. I'm like, oh yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
you for sure are an artist.
Yes, thank you. And that's something that I've always had is kind of that right brain, left brain. And I never really put the pieces together until, come years later and I decided to create my own fitness business. But that's kind of originally where it started is I just had this affinity for, trying to make myself better, trying to help others through their own struggles. And then I also just had this entrepreneurial kind of life in me that I knew I wanted to manage my own business at some point. And like in college, when I first discovered, fitness, I really didn't think anything too much of it other than it kept me in shape. I enjoyed hanging out there with friends. I loved seeing progress over the years. But like I said, I have my degree in managerial economics and fine art. And I fell into that where I went into the finance world and I worked there for a couple of years and I just realized this can't be it. Like, this can't be what I
Yeah.
have to do on a daily basis to be happy.
Right. And I think that's something that, we shared where just, corporate America, like for some people, it is the best thing ever. And they love being able to have a place they show up every day and build this thing for, a bigger company they believe in and get the promotions and everything. And then sometimes if it's not, though, if it's not your thing or there's something else that's calling to you, it does feel like, oh my gosh, you just cannot ignore that whisper almost. That's like, something else is out there, something else is calling me. So like what was that like when you finally have your degree, like you're in accounting, and what was it about fitness or that feeling that just made you want to take part in that transition?
Like you said, there's just that whisper in the back of your ear. And I think you have to lean into those things that are calling on you and that are the brightest part about your day. I remember I was working in Sacramento and I was working in fund accounting and I was learning so much, which anything I'm learning, I can usually find the light in. And I'm just like, I love to be here. I love to learn more. But I was just like, is this it? Like, I got to go home. And honestly, I can't wait to go home and go to the gym because I'm going to go see my friends and we're going to go lift heavy and we're going to have a good time. We're going to eat after. Like, it was just the highlight of my day. And that I continued to see that as I even moved through positions and companies. Um, and it wasn't really until I moved back home and I started working honestly at PIMCO, which is one of the most, premier
Yeah.
asset managers in Newport Beach. I thought if I made it here, this was my goal within investment management. If I made it to PIMCO, I would be happy. And
Mm,
I sat
interesting.
there in front of my 3 computer screens in a beautiful 22-story building overlooking, the whole ocean and Fashion Island in Newport Beach and all these fancy cars. And I was like, I am miserable. And
Mm.
I would wake up every morning around 4 a.m. just so I could go to the gym and get a workout in before the stock market opened, and then get to work, price fixed income securities all day, and then get home, go to sleep, so tired, and just do it all over again.
Yeah. I mean, there's so a few things that I feel like you said in there that are so true and worth calling out, which is it's almost like fitness is that thing that you did when you almost like were looking for the where does your energy kind of raise? What do you do when you don't have to be doing anything? Like it's almost just those little things that you do for fun or that you read when you can't read anything else. Or you go and look up online when like you're just so dead and you can't work on another project. It's like that's one thing to pay attention to for sure, I think, because that's just almost like your life calling to you beyond what sounds good as a title or a job or whatnot. And two, that like it doesn't always make sense and like isn't always convenient. Like you had gotten this dream job, right? Like and I felt like that with my journey too. Like I was like, no, I can't go be an entrepreneur now because I finally have like the title I worked for and the salary and everything's so secure and
Yep.
comfortable. And then it doesn't always make sense, but you get that feeling and it's very hard to ignore for long once it comes on.
It's exactly that. It's just this little humming sound in the back of your head. And I think when you start to kind of question your day, or maybe you're so miserable during your day, and you start to question, like, what was the highlight of my day? I kept on asking myself that. Like, am I
Mhm.
enjoying what I'm doing? Um, I couldn't ignore it. And then when I sat there, I think I had a conversation with my mom about it. She's like, well, are there other positions within the company that you want to work for? And I think the first one you look for is you look at your manager, right? It's like if you're really good at what you're doing, that's probably your next role. Um, and I looked at that and I was like, oh gosh, I cannot do that on a daily basis. And then I looked around at other roles in the company and I said, I don't feel called or pulled to do any of these. It's been a wonderful experience, but I think something needs to change.
And so what was the first step? Like did you launch straight into a fitness business? Like what was that transition like, right? From that realizing that moment of something has to change here to fitness and kind of the world that you're in more so now.
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny. I think I say it a lot more eloquent now than what actually happened. But it was a Wednesday, and I came home and I was crying, and I was living with my brother at the time. And my brother is someone who's very spontaneous. He lives in the moment. He's always having a good time. He's Mr. Adventurous. And if he were to write a book, it would be so fascinating. Whereas if you read my book, I'm like, maybe up until this point, it wasn't so fascinating. But I've always been so calculated. And at this point, I came home and he said, Paige, you're so miserable. Like, why don't you just take a year? You have savings. Go do whatever the heck you want to do and go find yourself. Go explore. And I looked at him and I'm like, you're crazy. Like, I have a cushiony salary. I have to go
Yep.
to work tomorrow. And he's like, no, just you don't. And I sat there and I kind of started thinking about it, and he started painting that picture for me. Like, imagine if you just got to do whatever the heck you wanted to do on a daily basis for a little bit. Like, how liberating that would be. And I started feeling that and visualizing that. And I looked at him and I was like, I can't go back to work tomorrow. And in that moment, I chose that I wasn't going back. And
Wow.
looking back, I'm like, man, I probably should have given 2 weeks or something. But at the time, I was a contractor, and I knew that like I would probably lose all of my licenses and stuff to work, with all of those
Oh,
accounts.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I told my brother, I was like, oh, I have shoes there, I have headphones, I need to go back. And Jackson's like, I will buy you a pair of shoes and headphones. You are not going back. I cannot see you this miserable. You're done. And
Wow.
I thank him like every single day, but that was the most pivotal time of transition. And at that point, I didn't go back. And I said, you know what? I want to go see what it's like to work in a gym. So I applied to 24-hour fitness. I got a job working in sales, making minimum wage, which was so ridiculous. I'd never made minimum wage. And I just started from the ground up, and I said, this is my time to take this year, and I'm going to make it exactly what I want to be.
Wow, what an amazing leap into entrepreneurship. I mean, like trial by fire, just like we are going for it,
Yep.
that is so amazing. And it really reminds me, I was reading The 4 Hour Work Week recently, Tim Ferriss. He always just has such interesting ways of looking at things. And when he was stuck in what, you're describing and like really hating his work, and just couldn't see a way out, he eventually he went and he just took the chance and made the leap. But what he always says and describes it as is like, why can't you just pause, like people have
Mm-hmm.
such a hard time thinking like, I could never give all this up. I could never come back. I'm going to lose too much. And for him, what really helped him was just, this is a pause. I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to go work on things I'm passionate about. I'm going to see what happens. And that pause changed everything. I mean, all of a sudden, it's like he could never go back. His life was different. He ended up finding ways to make it work and to build all these passive revenue streams and to enable a life where he didn't have to be tied to working around the clock. But when you said that, I thought that was such an interesting thing that, like, you weren't committing to the rest of your life having no job, right? And not knowing what your path was. But even for just a year, saying, what would I really work on? What would I do, even if I'm getting paid minimum wage to do this? And you could have always gone back to finance, but sometimes I just think it almost lessens that feeling in someone's brain to just be like, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to take a pause and we will just see where this adventure goes and where it picks up or something. So it was really
Yep.
cool that you did that.
And I'm learning that too over time with anything, that I think we're so used to going full force so fast in a single direction, and you're following what your colleagues are doing, or you're seeing what your friends are doing. And they're getting married, they're getting engaged, and they're moving or they're starting a new job, and it's so easy to just feel like you have to be caught up in that and doing it. But I think that's also where a lot of, our unhappiness sources from, is that comparison. And so I think that is really huge, and it's hard to do, but to sit down, slow down, and just reevaluate, like I think you even made a post recently that it's okay to pivot at any
Yeah.
point in time. I think that if you can be authentic and be true to yourself and recognize, like, I may have been going in this direction, but I need to pivot. And I think this is staying authentic to myself. I think that's one of the most powerful things that you can do.
Right. And it's like, I mean, isn't that what life is about too? I mean, I know that there's this tendency, maybe it's cultural or, the peer pressure and everything, these contracts we've kind of subconsciously just agreed to of like, you'll go and you'll do things one way, or you'll follow this timeline, or you'll get this job, or it'll look like this. But I think once you get on that entrepreneurial path, or you realize there's really nothing wrong with pivoting, like that's exactly maybe the way to do things is to go and take action with the information that you have now. And once you get into it, you're going to get more information about what works or what doesn't, or what you like or what you don't. And then you slightly adjust from there. And like that to me seems like such a more natural way of doing things than like from the time you're 22 years old coming out of college, this is your career track, right? Like this is every big decision in your life. It almost just seems like we have forgotten to honor like the way that things kind of do naturally happen and evolve in life, which is just you learn and you grow and you change and you almost allow that process versus like fighting it tooth and nail because you thought it would be one way in your career track forever.
That is so true. I just even think about that back in my shoes of corporate and climbing that ladder as I sat there going, okay, I'm, an associate trade processor, and my next step is to be a senior associate trade processor with a couple more responsibilities and a lot more hours. And I just didn't find myself fitting into that. And I resisted and I didn't want to. And I think that just creates so much tension in your day. But all of a sudden, when you, like you said, take that step back, you breathe, and you go, you know what? Instead of holding on tight to the shore and resisting it, I'm just going to let go and I'm just going to flow. And we're going to figure out where this takes me. And I think that is like where that journey really begins.
Yeah. And so you are, at 24 Hour Fitness, you're training. When do you decide to start your own online business, right? And take online clients? Was that part of the process from the beginning, or was that something that kind of became that revelation as you got into the training?
It was something that was planted in the back of my head, and I knew eventually I was going to go online. And the reason
Mhm.
for that is because I knew that I could A, reach so many more people, but also B, like I knew from a sense of time freedom, I didn't want to be glued to working at the gym, rendering 8 to 12 sessions in a day because I started to max out at that point. So I had
Yeah.
started planting these seeds in my head, but when I kind of, heard obviously COVID was happening, I was like, okay, this is the writing on the wall right now. And if I
True.
don't take this sign and run with it, like I could really capitalize on this right now. And I could either sit back and collect my unemployment when I get laid off from here, or I can use that and I can build a business and I'm just going to run with it. That's what I did.
Wow. Ah, that's so amazing. I love how you saw something that was even a hard thing happening. And instead of letting that intimidate you or make you retreat, you were like, this is it. Like, this is going to be my opportunity. This is where I'm going to just take what I can from this experience and build something almost like from the rubble, right? Like, build something out of this.
Right. And I think something too that you can always ask yourself, something I try to do in any situation is instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Why did I just get let go from a job that I have loved so much? I've never had more fun in my life. But instead asking myself, why is this happening for me? What is this
Hmm.
leading me to? And what can I make from this situation? I mean, I easily could have sat on my butt and did nothing and just waited for the gyms to open. But to be quite frank, the whole, standard brick and mortar gym and the training, it's changed from what it was. And I'm so grateful that I took those signs and went with it. And it ended up being actually one of, I think, the most pivotal years of my life. And even as hard as it was with COVID, it gave me so much time to just focus, sit down,
Yeah.
and just evolve into what I wanted.
What you said I think is so great is it's just why is this happening for me? And if you can shift to that, like there's your and it just trains your brain to ask a better question almost. Like you get the answers that you are looking for. So instead of saying, why is this happening to me? If you can say, why is this happening for me? I love
Mm-hmm.
that because it makes your brain answer a better question.
It does. And it makes you think outside the box. And I think
Yeah.
that's something we always need to do, especially if you do go the entrepreneurial route, is there is nothing written for you. There is no game plan. There's no one telling you that you have to do XYZ to promote yourself. Like, you do all of the hiring and the firing and all of the
Yeah.
promoting within your own business.
Yeah. What would you say, like, are some of the things that have had just the most positive impact, like, on your journey, whether it's entrepreneurial, whether it's fitness? Does anything stand out as being like, "That really impacted me?"
As a huge theme, I would say investing. And that could
Mhm.
be either investing in yourself, figuring out how you can better yourself through personal development, you can better your mind, you can better your skills, or investing specifically, financially into, for example, hiring a mentor or hiring a coach or
Yeah.
getting a program. Um, at that point, with COVID happening, I decided, you know what, I could figure this out on my own. I definitely could, but it's going to take me a whole lot of time. Or I can hire someone who specializes in this. And that's what I did. So I hired a fitness, business mentor coach who really helped me guide the way to figuring out my sales, figuring out my program and my offer. And I got really just honed in on that. And it gave me kind of that direction, I guess, to go in. But overall, I think when you put your money and you put your mind and you put your energy into something, you invest in yourself, it's going to take you somewhere and it's going to bring you so many lessons that you wouldn't get had you just sat back.
I 100% echo that of just a coach, a mentor. That has been, I think, everything for my journey too. Just even having someone that once you feel good in business too, like just having someone who's like can go through it with you, and you'll still have
Mm-hmm.
little things that come up or little challenges, but I almost think about it like it's this mountaintop climb, right? To build this business. And why wouldn't you want someone who has done it, right? And who's up there and who can look down and say, "Hey, you're going to think this is like the easy path, but it's not. There's like a huge boulder over there. So go around this way instead. Like, here's the fastest path. I can see it." It's like you can learn so much online, but if you can have a step by step path or someone to just hold your hand through it who has been there and like done all the trial and error and like throwing spaghetti at the wall, I just think that is so true, so pivotal, like makes a big difference.
It's so worth it for that person to also, let you know, like, hey, I've been through your struggles, I've been in your shoes, I've seen all of the paths you can take because maybe I've exhausted all of them. And I have found that through, even being an entrepreneur, I've overcome a lot of those battles. And then even within my fitness journey. So at the same time in COVID last year, I had a business coach and I had my own fitness coach because I knew that if I wanted to make a killer fitness business, I need a mentor who's been there, who's crushing it. I want to learn from the best. And then at the same time, I need to know what it feels like to be a client from a
Yeah.
coach that is online. That way I can better serve my future clients.
Yeah, that's such a great point. Just kind of seeing both sides of it so that using that information to then even better your own like offerings.
Yeah, and I think you just learn so much from experiences with people. I'm so much of a person of like talking with people and building relationships and picking people's brains apart that I am just not someone who can sit down and read a textbook. Like, I need that interaction, and I think that's where a lot of you just learn so many lessons from people, and that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to exchange energy. And that's a beautiful thing.
I think so. And that investing too, it to that energy point, it's like that I think for me has been one, you get I think 10x whatever you put out there, right? Like value given is value received. So if it feels like a big investment for you, you're gonna get that much more back because you have that much more skin in the game. But I think it's just that commitment too. Like you show up if you've like invested in yourself, whether it's fitness, whether it's business, like you think differently about yourself. Like you're like all of a sudden this isn't just a hobby I'm doing. Like I'm putting my money and my time into this. This is my business, Like it gives you a different way of showing up in the world. I think when you do make that investment and commitment in any area like of your life.
Absolutely. I seriously couldn't agree more. That investment is, I think, something that really gives you purpose and it gives you direction. Um, And it's nice to lean on. I think that times you have to admit, like, sometimes you need to lean on people, and that's okay.
What about like one of your biggest lessons? Like anything you wish you would have known or done earlier or seen differently that now you have a different perspective on?
Something I think I've just learned over the course of, the last 2 years of being an entrepreneur is just show up consistently. Like, you don't have to be perfect, but I think you have to be authentic. And there were definitely many times of going through my own fitness journey that I found like, wow, I'm about to share a very vulnerable moment, or I'm on the fence of sharing this vulnerable moment, but I think this is going to help people. And when I think you share those struggles and you open up and you be authentic, you don't follow anything else, like, that's where true connection happens, and you shouldn't be ashamed of any of those things.
Yeah, that's such a hard one. It's like an easy one to describe, and then until you're doing it, like when you're posting on social media about your, triumphs and then your tribulations, and you're like, this is really hard for me. I totally feel like I'm getting my head around it a lot, but it's always those posts that I'm nervous to share that are the ones that the most people message me about or the most people relate to. And people are just hungry for that connection, that vulnerability. And so many people, I think, are experiencing similar things, and we just forget that when we're in our own highlight reels.
Definitely. I think that's one of the biggest things is that, we come to Instagram to see the highlight of what everyone is doing, but it's actually like so much more refreshing when you just see what is truly happening underneath the filters. And
Yeah.
when you can share that with people, I've definitely found that's just where most people can relate. It's like people don't want to see, so and so making a bunch of money with all of the Gucci belts and all of the crazy flashy stuff. It's not that relatable for a lot of people. For some, definitely. But I think at the end of the day, like, it's important to share that we're all human.
Yeah, definitely. And even when you show like, I can think of one or two people who definitely have like the Gucci belt Instagrams, right? But for me, the things that drew me in about them were seeing the journey that they went on to get there. And so you're rooting for them because you know all the stuff they had to wade through to get there versus just like the amazing,
Yes.
end finale. And then you're like, well, it must be great. So it is to your point though, it always goes back to just the more like genuine, the more here's my real story, here's how hard this was, here's what I didn't see. I think that's the stuff that just
Yep.
always connects, always is like most memorable.
Yep, it's that journey to get from A to B, and that's the part that I love to see. Don't get me wrong, I love to see the Gucci belts and all that,
Yeah.
but it's like I love to see that, like, where did you come from and where are you now, and like, how inspiring is that, like, to be able to make something of yourself.
Yeah, definitely. What about like for you, what vision do you have for your brightest life? What are you looking forward to next? Like what's on the horizon for you that you're really excited about or see as part of your future?
Yeah, well, currently I am working on building out my own platform to kind of make fitness and nutrition accessible to everyone. And I really envision my brightest life as just it's continuing to expand what I'm currently doing, and that's to help thousands of women gain strength and confidence while healing their relationship with food. If I can continue to do that, I think that I personally would feel, so much satisfaction in that I'm doing my part in helping people. So
I love that.
if I can continue on that path, my heart is full, and I really couldn't ask for more.
That's so awesome. What about like for a few little fitness tips or ladies and the men listening?
Yeah, I think when it comes to nutrition, number one, recognize that food is medicine. The food choices that you make every day, it will either heal you or it's going to harm you, and you have the opportunity to choose wisely. And when it comes to fitness, make it simple. Don't overcomplicate it, but go outside, get vitamin D, move your body and celebrate for what it is capable of, whether it's at home or it's in the gym, but do something that tests your strength, that challenges you, and makes you a more resilient person.
Love that. Awesome. Okay, and last question is how can people get in touch with you, support you, work with you, give us all the goods.
Yes, I'm most active on Instagram, so you can follow me on Instagram at Miss Yomo, MISS_Yomo, YOMO. And I currently have a email list for my launch that's coming up. So that platform that I'm building is probably going to be out in the next, hopefully, 6 weeks if I had to guess.
Ah, so
Yes.
exciting.
So my company is called propensityfitness.com. You can go, yeah, www.propensityfitness.com. And you can sign up to be a part of my email list. And so when I launch my program, you'll get an exclusive discount. And you'll just be a part of that email list going forward. So you'll get all of the fitness tips and tricks right to your mailbox.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's so fun to hear. I mean, I didn't know a lot of that about your journey, like how you left, like the bravery that took that, decision to do it. And then I knew you're amazing at all the fitness things, but it's kind of fun to hear what stands out to you and what you summarize as the most important things. So I know everyone will have some fun ideas and hopefully be inspired to get out there, get outside, get moving and follow along your journey. So thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Always a pleasure. Love talking to you and hearing everything that you have to say.
Thank you so much for listening in. If you loved this episode, it would mean so much to me if you share it on Instagram stories and tag me so I can personally thank you for helping get the message out. I am so grateful to be on this journey with you. Until next time, talk to you soon.